Apex Mobile China has something weird going on. They keep predicting weapons and legends before they come to our version of Apex, which made me realize we can use Apex Mobile China to potentially work out new legends and content for Apex's future. And I think Apex Mobile China may have revealed Ash's rework abilities, but what do I mean by the fact that Apex Mobile China is predicting legend abilities? Well, back on June the 6th, 2023, we got our first trailer for Apex China, and it revealed a few of the legends in the game, and most of these legends were copying existing legends from Apex, because clearly EA and the developers had some sort of deal. But also at the time, they had some unique legends, like this guy who was showcased in the trailer, who seemed to harness these little balls here to debuff his enemies. Well, it turned out, upon full release of Apex China, this guy right here was actually a copy of an old version of Revenant Reborn, 3 months before Revenant Reborn was even announced. But before we talk about Apex China showing us abilities you've never even thought of early, this video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Have you ever been in your boring old country and wish you could visit another country in a second? Well, you can. Well, you can't actually, but using a VPN, you can do it virtually. VPNs are becoming an increasingly useful tool if you use technology at all, and not even for their vast security benefits. For example, making sure Destroyer 2009 doesn't steal your IP, but also for entertainment benefits, as I'm sure a lot of you use Netflix. But did you know every country has a different Netflix library? So if I use Surfshark to change the IP my country was based in, I could actually browse these different libraries and view entertainment locked to certain countries. Also, if you use the link in my pinned comment and description to surfshark.com/GRRT, you get 4 extra free months of Surfshark. So check out Surfshark for its benefits, and thank you for sponsoring me, Surfshark. Back onto it though, when Revenant Reborn would finally release in August 2023, the developers did come out and do some interviews and told us that some of the beta abilities they had for Rev Reborn were scrapped midway through his development, and one of these abilities was a 1v1 in the void, where Revenant would drag his enemy into a void where he could 1v1 that enemy without any external factors, because it would only be him and the enemy in the void. And lo and behold, this character who was revealed 3 months before Revenant Reborn was even released had this ability in Apex Mobile China. So the guys creating Apex China clearly had some sort of line of communication with EA, where EA would give them legend ideas. Now at the time, this could have been chalked up to a coincidence, and maybe Respawn and Apex Mobile China's studio had the same idea at the same time, but there will be a few more things in the future of Apex China's development which will reveal they keep getting information about future legends from EA, and they keep incorporating these future legend ideas into game and releasing them before the main version of Apex even manages to. After this happened, Apex China would release their own version of Loba, where Loba, instead of throwing a ring and teleporting to where the ring lands, she would turn into a fox, and she would teleport to wherever the fox went. The fox would essentially allow Loba to fly for a short amount of time, but we can tell this is definitely Loba because her ultimate is still the black market. It does have a different appearance, but it's essentially the same thing. It still takes damage, you can still pull loot through it. But I do like how they adapt some legend abilities to work better on mobile, because the fox feels really good on mobile, and it does give you a lot of maneuverability that you lose by playing on a touchscreen. After this, Apex China would release a few more legends that we have on main Apex already, like Valk. They released their own version of Valk. She's pretty funky, but honestly she's fairly fun, and I'll tell you one thing, her jetpack controls feel silky smooth. I mean, her jetpack controls feel better than they do on main Apex. And then Apex China would release this legend, who clearly copied Fade. Fade was an exclusive legend for Apex Mobile before Apex Mobile was shut down, and a lot of people were theorizing that one day main Apex would get Fade. We know this legend is copying Fade because they have the same slide ability as Fade, where whenever you would slide and get back up, you'll get a small speed boost, and they also have the phase rewind, which is very fun. Basically, it just allows you to go back in time to where you were standing a few seconds before, and is really good to juke players. Apex China's version of Fade though would have a different tactical ability, as instead of a void cage, Fade on Apex China would get an omnidirectional void dash, which is so fun. Basically, it's a dash that you can do in any direction. You can do it backwards while looking forwards, you can do it forwards, and it stacks 2 of them. They both charge independently, so it does end up working very well, and it's very good to confuse enemies. And if you like this legend's abilities, well, I'm going to say just keep watching the video because it gets better better. But after this legend came out, we would get a legend called Wukong. This legend was released 3 months ago, and despite being released 3 whole months ago, they had Lifeline Reborn's passive 2 whole months before she was even released. If you're not aware, Lifeline Reborn's passive is the ability to use dock to glide. You can activate this glide ability by pressing jump while you are in the air, and it lets you glide for a limited amount of time. And Wukong's passive is the ability to glide. If you're in the air, press jump and you will glide on a cloud. This functions the same as Lifeline Reborn's passive, despite being released 2 months before. Now, a lot of you may still be skeptical, like, oh, this is just another coincidence. Apex China doesn't have direct communications with EA, they don't get told legend abilities early. Well, explain this one. A few months ago, Apex China released this weapon right here. Now, you may not recognize this thing at a glance, but let me do this. Yes, it is an explosive weapon that shoots blue, slow-moving balls. This is the EPG added to Apex Mobile China months before the EPG was announced to be coming to main Apex. This is insane, and this pretty much proves that these guys still have communication with EA and do borrow legend abilities, concepts, and weapon concepts from them. So it brings a lot of stuff into question, like, are the rest of Wukong's abilities going to be coming to our version of Apex in the future? Well, honestly, they might. Wukong's ultimate is a melee weapon that you can either use at close range or long range, and it's essentially a stick that does 70 damage to people. It has a very slow fire rate, but it is very powerful. So maybe we get a melee ultimate in Apex's future. It wouldn't surprise me considering the Buster Sword was so successful and so fun. They could easily make this thing an ultimate ability for a legend, and they were clearly testing it to some degree. And the funny thing is, the Buster Sword has very similar abilities to what Forge had when he was quote-unquote leaked, fake leaked. So maybe something like Forge 2 could be a future legend using melee abilities. Wukong's tactical ability is the ability to drop a platform that rises about 20 meters in the air. This platform is invincible, it can fit your whole team on it, and can basically give your team a little break from the fighting and a bit of time to heal. And this ability is very similar to an ability that was leaked several years ago, which was originally going to be an ultimate for Catalyst, where a platform would raise you high into the air. This also made me look closer at the EPG they released a few months ago. Their version of the EPG seems to take explosive ammo, so maybe if Respawn want to keep the EPG that they're going to add in a few weeks to our version of Apex, they could give it its own ammo type like an explosive ammo. I honestly think they are going to keep the EPG and just keep it in the care package or something like that, as almost a weapon on par with the Kraber. But maybe Apex will put it on the floor and bring back the explosive ammo that was leaked probably 4 years ago now. Yes, Respawn were originally planning to release an explosive ammo type, but I guess the possibility is now back on the table, considering they're adding their first explosive weapon. And this whole realization that Apex Mobile China is getting early legend abilities from EA made me look back on Apex China's version of Fade, and maybe look a bit closer and realize maybe this is going to be what the Ash rework turns into. It has been rumored and leaked for a long time now that Ash is going to get a rework under the name Ash Rebooted, and there's been a lot of stuff in the lore leading up to this rework. So at this point, it's all but confirmed she's going to get a rework, and I think some of the abilities from Apex China's version of Fade could be taken from the Ash rework concepts Respawn are drawing up right now. Like the ultimate ability. When we look closer at the Phase Rewind ultimate, it looks like it could fit on Ash very easily. First of all, it drops a void tear rather than a portal, and Ash drops a tear as well. And also the tear is very technological looking. It looks more like a glitch in the system rather than a real tear, which would fit into the supposed leaked lore of the Ash rework, where the glitchy voice has taken over and she is the new version of Ash. Also, the phase dash that this character has would fit as an Ash tactical as well, as basically at this point Ash's ultimate is kind of a phase dash but not as cool. Both of these abilities would fit perfectly on an Ash rework. Honestly, perfectly. And we do know Respawn will probably want to keep the Void tech with Ash's rework, so her reworked abilities will still be using Void tech. So I honestly think this could be an early look into an Ash rework, if not an early concept of what Respawn are drawing up, considering Apex China gets told stuff early to develop their legends, I guess. This definitely makes me more inclined to keep a closer look on Apex China, as the theory that they get legend abilities early has all but been proven. So I'm going to recommend you subscribe.